Welcome back to the course on how to learn music as a foreign language. We are now in section 3. In this section, we are going to study the second set of music symbols. The 5 lessons that we are going to cover in this section are: number 1, we are going to look at the treble clef and the bass clef. Number 2, we are going to quickly look at the treble staff and the bass staff. Numbers 3 and 4, we are going to spend a little bit more time studying the notes on the treble staff and the notes on the bass staff. And number 5 will be our first assessment. It will be a short quiz just to make sure that we have fully learned what we have covered so far. Okay, this is the treble clef. This symbol is placed at the beginning of each line of music for higher sounding notes, hence the name treble. And this is the bass clef. This symbol is placed at the beginning of each staff line of music for lower sounding notes, hence the name bass. So if we put the treble clef on the music staff, we call that staff the treble staff. The treble clef is also called a G clef because it indicates the position of the note G by starting its first stroke on the second line of the music staff. So now, any kind of note that we write on the second line of the treble staff is a G note. And if we put the bass clef on the music staff, we call that staff the bass staff. The bass clef is also called an F clef because it indicates the position of the note F by starting its first stroke on the 4th line of the music staff. So now the note that we write on the 4th line is the note F. Now it is very important to note that the notes on the bass staff are written in different lines and spaces compared to the notes on the treble staff. As you can see, the note on the 4th line of the bass staff is F, while the note on the 4th line of the treble staff is D. And the previous note, G, found in the second line of the treble staff is actually B if written on the bass staff. Now, to avoid the confusion, we will now study and learn the other notes of each of these 2 staves. Now, if you recall from the previous section, we studied that each letter of the English alphabet represents a music note. To find out the names of the notes on the treble staff, all we have to do is to think of the first 7 letters of the English alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. There is a very simple rule that we need to follow in order to read each of these letters representing the music notes. To read the alphabet forwards means to read the notes from the bottom going to the top of the treble staff. And to read the alphabet backwards means to read the notes from the top down to the bottom of the treble staff. Let's start identifying the notes on the lines of the treble staff. Now, remember that the other name of the treble clef is a G clef. This means that we have a given note already, which is the note G, written on the second line of the treble staff. This is the letter G representing the note G. So, in order to find out what the other notes on the lines of the treble staff are, all we have to do is to follow the simple rule I mentioned earlier. Therefore, on the first line of the treble staff is the note E, and on the third line is the note B. On the 4th line is the note D, and on the 5th line is the note F. We shall now identify the notes in the 4 spaces of the treble staff. In the first space is the note F. In the second space is the note A, in the third space is the note C, and in the 4th space is the note E. I know it's not easy to remember all these notes, so we use acronyms to help us remember them. For the notes in the spaces of the treble staff, the 4 letters form the word face, so it's the easiest acronym to remember. For the notes on the lines of the treble staff, this is the acronym that we use, or rather these are: Every good boy does fine, or Every good boy deserves fruit. So there you go. These are the notes on the lines and in the spaces of the treble staff. Now let's take a look at the notes on the bass staff. The same rule applies here. Can you remember what is our given note? That's right, it's the note F on the 4th line. Why? Because of the F clef, which is the other name of the bass clef. So let's identify the other notes on the lines of the bass staff. On the 5th line is the note A, and on the 3rd line is the note D. On the 2nd line is the note B, and on the 1st line is the note G. Now the notes in the spaces. In the first space is the note A, in the second space is the note C, in the third space is the note E, and in the fourth space is the note G. Again, we use acronyms to remember these notes easily. For the notes on the lines, we use this acronym: good boys deserve fruit always. And for the notes in the spaces, all cows eat grass. You may have heard other acronyms that others are using. You can even make your own if you want to. It doesn't really matter what acronym you use. The main thing is to use it to help you remember these notes. And there you go. These are the notes on the lines and in the spaces of the bass staff. Be sure to remember them and get ready for our short quiz. And this is just to make sure that you understand everything that we have covered so far. So what I want you to do now is download the PDF file and answer the questions there. Remember, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Otherwise, I will see you in the next section.